Greetings and welcome to the Data Armory. Today we are going to study about variables, and we want to simplify the study so that any beginner who seeks to have an understanding on Python variables will find this to be very easy for them. So when we talk about variables in this tutorial, what are we going to learn? So what we are going to study here is that what is the definition of Python variables. So at the end of this study, you're supposed to have had a clue or have an understanding of what a Python variable is. And that's why we say that the learning outcome at the end of this study is that you should be able to know and define a variable, and at least you should be able to put them in use, or at least you should be able to use variables. What are the prerequisites for this study is that at least you have already installed a Python interpreter, or you already have a code editor / IDE. For more on this, you can check our previous video whereby we talk about the beginner's guide to Python to show you where you can get some of this, but we said we'll do a more detailed tutorial on how to have IDEs and how to have editors. So in this study, as we have said, we are going to look at variables. Now let us see what is here, or what a variable in Python is. We have already established what we are going to study. We have said the prerequisites. So what is a variable in Python for any beginner who is seeking to understand the Python programming language? What is a variable in Python? So in Python, a variable is a name that is used to hold or store a value or an object. So a variable is a name, or we can say that a variable is a symbolic name that is used to hold or store. Here, the keyword is hold or store. So it is used to hold or to store a value or an object. Now, when we talk about a value, in this case, a value is the information that is stored or linked to a variable. So a variable is a symbolic name that is used to store a value. And what is a value? You should get that right. A value in this case is the information that is stored or linked to a variable. Now, when we talk about values, then a value can be a letter or a string of letters. It can also be a number or an integer in this case. Now, when you talk about a string and an integer, then in Python programming language and in other programming languages, we know they are always data types. But because this is Python, when we shall be looking at data types, then there is a string as a data type, there is an integer as a data type, there is a float also, but much on that later. So we have seen that a value in this case is the information that is stored or linked to a variable. A value can be a letter, string of letters, or a number, which when it comes to data types is an integer. So a variable is given a value because it stores a value. So a variable should be given a value. And what is used here is the equal sign, which is also known as the assignment operator. So for an assignment statement, we need a variable name. For us to have an assignment statement, we need a variable name, we need an assignment operator, and in this case, an assignment operator is the equal sign. And you should note that it's a single equal sign, because when you use double equal signs, then that becomes a comparison operator, which is another topic that we'll go into later. So we should have a variable name, we should have an assignment operator, and we should have the value. So three things to have an assignment statement. We should have a variable name, which you have said that is a symbolic name that is used to hold or store values. We should have the assignment of operator, or we should have an assignment of operator, which you have said is the single equal sign, not double equal sign. And it is this assignment operator that is used to give a value to this variable name, and you should have a value, and I've already defined what a value is here. So example, so when you look at this line of code, is that this name text, it is a variable name, it is the symbolic variable, it is a symbolic name, it is the variable. The name text is the variable or the symbolic name that is used to store a value. And you see between the text here and the value here, which is a string, which is you see these quotation marks. This is a string, and we know it's a string because it is between the quotation marks. It can be single quotation marks or double quotation marks. So text is a symbolic name or the variable name. Hello world is the value, but we need to store this hello world in this variable name. How do we do that? By using this assignment operator, which is the single equal sign. So this is an example, text equal sign, which is the assignment operator, and here we store hello world in this text. Then also here is another example in this second line of code, message, whereby we have welcome to Data Armory, and here we have a variable name is score, which, and we have the assignment operator, which stores an integer here, or a number, which is 12. So let us try and see that. So we have text, which is the variable name. We have the assignment operator, and let us store the word or the value hello world. Should be hello world. So let us run that line of code. And because we are using Jupyter Notebook, we don't need to use the print statement. So there we have seen it has printed hello world. The hello world has been printed because we have stored it in this variable text. So any other time in our program, if we want to use hello world, we just use this text, and we can see that we'll see that when we look at how to store integers in variable and give an example. So we have stored hello world using the assignment operator in this variable name. So you see when we print text, but still we can still use print, no harm. So we print text. Now when we want to print hello world, because we have stored hello world in text, now we'll print text, which is the variable. So we print text, and still it gives us the same hello world. We also had here here in our second line of code, here in our examples, we had a message which stored which stored this statement. So message. So we have message. Message there is the what? Is a variable name, assignment operator. Then between these strings, we say, what was the statement again that we need here? Welcome to the Data Armory. So here we store welcome to the Data Armory. So variable, assignment operator, then the value which has been stored here. So then we run that line. So when you want to print welcome to Data Armory, we'll not need to go and write again welcome to Data Armory, because we have stored it in this container. A variable name is like a container whereby we store things, and when we want to use these things in another place, we move the container other than moving them one by one. So if you want to use welcome to Data Armory in another place or another line in our program, then we don't need again to write it because we already stored it here. So we just come and use message, but it will make more sense when we come to integers for a beginner in this case. So no, we are not assigning it again, we are printing. So message, so welcome to the Data Armory. And if for example you are not using the Jupyter Notebook, or yeah, we'll say print message. So we are not using this print message because we are using Jupyter Notebooks, which handles that. It prints welcome to the Data Armory. Again, we have seen that when you're talking about variables, we can store integers or we can store numbers in variables. For here, score is equals to 12. So here, score is the symbolic name or the variable, and here we can store an integer which is 12. So when we print, let us run that. When we print score, the output should be 12. Now, because 12 has been stored here in this variable name score, let's say for example we can say score plus 1. So we store this in a variable called sum. If we wanted to get the sum, so we say score plus 1. Now, what is the value of score? The value of score is 12 because already we have stored 12 in this variable. So let us see if it will give us 13. Score plus 1 is equals to, so let us print the sum. So let us see what the sum will give us. Sum gives us 13. Why? Because 12 has been stored in this variable, and now when we use score in this program, is that score has the value of 12. When you add 1, it gives us 13. So again, let us say 12 plus 12. So the value here is score, which has a value of 12 plus 12. What will it give us? Let us run that. It gives us 24. So again, another important thing to note is that you can always assign different values to different variables. You can always assign different values to different variables. For example, here we have different values which are 10, come again. 10, come again are the different values, and we have the assignment operator here, and we can assign them to different variable names. Here the variable names are A, B, C. So the first variable name will be assigned to where the first variable name will hold the first value, the second variable name will hold the second value, the third variable name will hold the third value. But you should note here that you separate them using commas. So let us write that. So A, B, C is equals to, so many variable names do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3 variable names. Then let us give them values. We have 10, comma. We have come, which is a string. Remember, this is an integer, but we shall look at data types in our upcoming tutorials. Then we have again, which is a string. So let us run this. Then let us confirm that it has stored those values. So let us print A. We see what A will print. When we print A, what does it give us? It gives us 10, because here we stored 10 in A. Let us print B. When we print B, it should give us, what should it give us? It should give us come, because the second variable name should store the second value. So let us print B. What does it give us? It gives us come. Let us print C. Let us see what it will give us. So when we print C, what does it give us? It gives us again. So what you have just done here is that we have stored, or we have assigned different values to different variable names. So it's also possible that you can assign different values to different variable names, as we have seen in that fourth line of code in our examples. Another thing that we should also note is that you can also assign one value to different variables. You can assign one value to different variables. So let us try that, assigning one value to different variables. Let us assign one value to different variables. So let us have different variables which are D, E, and F. So we have three variables. Can we assign one value to them? Yes, we have said we can assign one value to them. We can say is equals to 500. So one value here, the value here is 500, which is an integer, and it has been assigned to variable name D, variable name E, and variable name F. So let us print D and see the value that it will give. Let us see the output. It gives 500. What about E? Which value will it give? It gives 500. What about F? Which value does it give? 500. And because 500 has been stored in these variable names, then let us do an example of D plus E and see what it will give us. Let us give the sum here. Say, for example, we are looking for the sum. So variable name is sum is equals to D plus E. What is the value of D? The value of D is 500, which has been stored there. The value of E is 500. So we expect 1,000. Let us run this line of code and see. No, we should print sum here so that we run it. It gives us 1,000. So basically, in a nutshell, that is what variable names is. Next, we shall look at a few rules and guidelines for naming variables. There are rules and guidelines when it comes to naming variables. How do we name variables when it comes to Python? So we have looked at Python variable names, and we are going to, in this tutorial, we are looking at the definition of Python variables, and at least now you have what the definition of Python variables is. And our learning outcome is that at the end of this video, you are supposed to have known and be able to define a variable. I believe you can now define a variable and at least use variables. So that was our study, and we shall be studying more about how to, we have said that next we shall be looking at a few rules and guidelines for naming variable names. So that was our study. Thank you.